everybody's time this morning. So thank you. Welcome to our inaugural coffee chat. We're getting a lot more in. Let me just get a bunch of folks in. It's great to have everybody join us this morning. Thank you. Getting up early or waking up a little bit earlier and joining us. So, the whole format of our coffee chat series came as a result of being able to kind of sit down and talk a little bit about some of the issues that we're facing as a profession, update on what's happening with the Maryland State Bar Association. And I wanted to pick just one topic each month that we can just talk about, and with a Q&A format. There'll be a short presentation by our guest speaker this morning, and then feel free to put your question in the chat box, and then I will call upon we'll propose the question to our speaker. Couple quick things to let you know about. With the MSBA, we are virtual through the end of the year. Still, our CLEs are still complimentary till the end of the year. And we are really pushing for the 100% membership. I'm all in with dues. So if you know someone who's not a member or hasn't renewed their membership, please encourage them to do so, because really that is the only source of funding at this point, the primary source of funding that's driving the MSBA and our ability to do the work that we are doing. So I'm grateful for you all being members and participating. One quick fun note is, many of you know my passion is food, and later in October, the 27th, I'm doing a cooking connections class. I'm actually not going to be doing the cook, well, I'll be cooking along with, but we have a chef who will be cooking for us. And that chef is John Shields from Gertrude's, the restaurant located at the Baltimore Museum of Art. He's been a celebrity chef on PBS, as well as a number of cookbooks. So I hope you'll join us. I think it'll be a Maryland crab cake fare with a vegan option. So we'll have lots of fun doing that. So without further ado, I do want to jump into our program this morning. And basically, the issue is lawyer wellness and our lawyer assistance program and some of the things that have happened. It's been stressful for many of our members, attorneys, judges, our clients, especially in this new virtual setting. And Wally mentioned earlier, he's going to be meeting with a client in person today, and that's got to be stressful too. Thinking about the social distancing and all of the safety protocols that are in place. And I thought none other then our own lawyer assistance program would be a perfect program to kick off as we head into the fall. Lisa Kaplan, unfortunately, has a family matter that she's not able to be here this morning, but I have so excited to have Judge Charles Dorsey, who has agreed to step in Lisa's shoes today. Absolutely, he's an amazing individual. He's a judge of the Circuit Court for Baltimore City. His brother is a colleague of mine on the district court here, and I won't hold that against him for many reasons. He was the deputy public defender of the Office of Public Defender before he got appointed to the bench, and he also chairs our lawyer assistance program. So he's really the person who is best versed with our program and sort of what we do, how we do it, and some of the issues that you've seen come and arise as a result of the pandemic. So Judge Dorsey, please tell us a little bit about lawyer assistance program and what you all are doing.
Thank you, Judge Scurti. It's an honor to be here. I'm very excited about the Lawyers Assistance Program. I don't know whether many of you are familiar with the Lawyers Assistance Program, but it's a Lawyers Assistance Program is a program that helps lawyers, judges, their families, law students, law clerks deal with stress, anxiety, alcohol, drug issues, relationship issues. The Lawyers Assistance Program for the state of Maryland has been in existence since 1980. We were the first state to have a Lawyers Assistance Program, and I'm sure you know that lawyers, like doctors, we're wired a little bit different from other individuals. Very intelligent, very A-type personalities, like to figure it out themselves. We usually go and we help everybody else, but who's there to help us? And so a lot of the brokenness of society ends up at our doors, whether we're judges, lawyers, whether we're law students trying to pass the bar exam, or whether we're later in seasons of our lives where we're, maybe holding on to practicing law longer than we really should, and we're holding on out of fear. So the Lawyers Assistance Program is a free counseling program. It's completely confidential, and it serves our entire community right from the beginning. When you're in law school, Lisa Kaplan and I go to the law schools. We introduce the Lawyers Assistance Program, let law students know in the beginning that we're available for them, and we service the entire legal population from the beginning to the end. Before we started off, we were more of a reactive program. Somebody would get a DWI, or somebody would have something in front of attorney grievance, or someone maybe may have a mental health issue, and we were more reactive. Today, we are more preventive, proactive, to let people know that we have these services available to you, to your colleagues. Maybe you may know someone who may be in a bind, not handling stress and anxiety well. This is a tool for the entire profession here in the state of Maryland.
Thank you for that overview. So many of us are dealing with some stress, and particularly with what's going to happen this fall. Are there some types of tools or programs that might be able to assist lawyers as they're kind of gearing up and worried about what's going to happen this fall with the pandemic, with whether we're going to go through a second wave?
So once again, we are funded through the Maryland State Bar Association and through the judiciary. So we offer free master's level counselors all through the entire state. And it's free. You can call Lisa Kaplan, and if you're feeling stress and anxiety, we have experts that are available to basically walk you through your apprehension, your anxiety, your stress. And so there's counseling available. What's actually, the pandemic has kind of helped, because the problem that we had before was location. Before, you had to come to Baltimore to get counseling. And then here recently, before the pandemic, we then found counselors all around the state of Maryland. So you could go, if you were in St. Mary's County, you could, we've had counselors there. If you were in Wycomico County, you would have counselors there. But now, Mark, because it's virtually done, you can get counseling right sitting in your kitchen table, and virtually have a counseling session with a counselor. Also, Lisa Kaplan is always available also, and she has a toolbox, which a virtual toolbox to help attorneys deal with this pandemic and the issues that we are dealing with now. We're dealing with two issues, Judge Scurti. We're not only dealing with the pandemic, we also have a social unrest at the same time. And so it is totally stress on top of stress. So it's a very challenging time for us in America.
What are some of the things that our attendees to this program, what are you doing to try to help de-stress and to try to help with the everyday situation? If you've got some ideas or thoughts that you could share with the group, just put your information in the chat or I'll call upon you. Susan, I appreciate your comment. She mentioned over 2 years ago, she contacted Lisa, just feeling burnt out, and there was immediate help there. And I think your comment is really appropriate. Don't hesitate. I think the first hurdle is people to realize and recognize, hey, I may not be able to do this ourselves. We as lawyers feel that, we've been trained to help others, and the one person we can't usually help is ourselves in many cases. Is that kind of the truth?
It is. Lawyers are the hardest profession to help because, first of all, I don't know whether it's because we come from an adversarial profession, but we're great at arguing. We're great in denial that there's a problem. We're great in denying that we're in pain because we've become so accustomed to that pain. We deny that we are stressed. And if you don't know what stress is something that I've made important today. Anxiety is something that I make important tomorrow. And a lot of times it becomes such a norm, but what it does, it eventually wears on us, and it usually breaks us. So it's important that you may be having. We've had judges that have had alcohol problems that have come and used our services completely confidential. We've had judges that had divorce relationship issues. Have used our services and used them successfully. We've had law students or law clerks that are stressed out about passing the bar exam. How are they going to pay back their student loans? How are they going to find a job during a pandemic that are constantly using our services? On the other end of the spectrum, we've had individuals who are in the early stages of dementia, who used our services to help walk them through the process of closing their profession. And so it is a holistic community of talented lawyers using professionals to support lawyers.
Denise Hicks Brown, you had a comment.
Yeah, when we initially realized that we were gonna, what we were gonna do to shut down when we first discovered the statewide shelter in place, I kind of got this triage mentality, and I wanted to help lead our staff by example. So I would ask myself, do I have to do this right now? Do I have to do this today? Do I have to do this in person? Is it really that important? And encouraging all of our staff to do the same thing, because everyone was so panicked trying to do everything the same way we always did it. And I said, well, we can't do that anymore. That was yesterday. We're not doing that today. Today, we're going to do what we can, and we're going to start with what we have to get done. And then it's really, do we have to do it in person? Do we have to do it today? Is this something that can wait? And I think it made our staff feel better to hear the attorneys saying that, so that it was okay for them to feel panicked and stressed, and, sort of making sure that they were taking care of themselves first. And I think I said, every time I spoke to one of our staff members, I said, you have to put your own oxygen mask on first before you can help other people with theirs. And initially, none of them came into the office. It was just the attorneys. And we wanted to make sure that we figured out how everyone could come back safely if they needed to, and then only if they needed to. And I think it really helped. Of course, people are still stressed, but I think we saw a lot less stress because of that. And I think people felt very, very comfortable being able to say, I'm not ready to come back. I don't feel like I can go to court. And we had health issues come up in the middle of it. Someone discovered that they had cancer. Someone discovered that they were pregnant. And so now, and you need to be able to tell us that so that we can, adjust for you, for your health. And I think because we did it that way, it helped. I think it definitely helped. People are still stressed, but I think it helped.
Thank you. Thank you, Denise. Harris Ammerman, you had a comment, question?
Hello, Judge. How are you? I haven't seen you for a number of years, but I come from the same area of law that Judge Scurti was, which is the bankruptcy court. And who could have more stress than bankruptcy lawyers representing consumer debtors who are always in a state of panic,
Yep.
particularly when we're dealing with foreclosures and repossessions. Well, I've been doing it for a great number of years. After a while, you sort of learn how to deal with the stress. But I see, some lawyers who are more combative than others, particularly on the creditor side, because those are the people that I deal with. And I think that perhaps the judges, the bankruptcy judges, need to recognize, and perhaps they do, as to which lawyers may cause some issues that also impact on the cases that are before them. I don't know that we haven't really had that kind of conversation with the bankruptcy judges, but I can see that there are some lawyers who do things that I would never do and don't represent their clients in the best way. But it's a continuing struggle in that particular area, particularly now that we're getting into a situation where people are losing their jobs. Mm-hmm. And I do Chapter 13 and the plans are falling apart. And, I just deal with it because I've always dealt with it. So this is a comment I wanted to make to you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you for that, sharing that. Anyone else have any comments, questions? You mentioned earlier about law students. One of the things that I looked into that we're hoping to implement, we're having a call tomorrow to discuss this, is recent graduates that have anxiety and concerns about taking the bar. Actually, it just was yesterday and the day before. But there are a handful of students graduates who elected to go under Chief Judge Barbera's alternative practice until you can take the bar within the 18-month period. So we're coming up with a program to assist those individuals, and particularly the lawyers that want to be the sponsors for that individual as a sponsoring attorney. So through the Department of Labor, we're hoping to set up a program that will allow the attorneys or the law firm to get tax credits and also some monies towards the educational component that would comply with the chief's order to help these individuals. I'm kind of looking at it more long range because I think this is going to be something that's going to be not just for this October bar, but I think looking ahead at the February bar, this is going to be, I think, unfortunately, a similar situation. And I could tell you that, we've been looking at the MSBA of what can we be doing to be up ahead of everything, to try to make sure that we are still providing the services to our membership, and including lawyer assistance, which I think is absolutely critical. Judge Dorsey, can you tell us a little bit about, sort of, how do you get a person? This kind of goes back to Susan's comment earlier. How do you get a person to reach out and say, either I or a family member or a colleague need some help?
Before I answer that question, just Scurti, I want to go back to let you know that the Lawyers Assistance Program has a component that helps those individuals that are preparing to take the bar exam, to walk them through their stress and anxiety. And you're right about the change in the process of preparing for the bar exam. My law clerk didn't feel comfortable taking it because it's done virtually. She's someone who processes information by writing it down, and you're not allowed to do that with this time around. You aren't allowed to have paper, pen, any of that in it. And then she's kind of like freaking out a little bit about it. And so she's involved with Lisa Kaplan to prepare her to be able to take that bar exam in in February. But I'm sorry, what was your question? I missed.
No, it was sort of how does one get to the point where they can feel comfortable making a call or reaching out, whether it's for themselves, a colleague, or a family member? Because I believe that our program does help when you're dealing with stress of a family member as well in the family unit, whether it's going through their own crisis, financial or emotional or mental health issues.
So I've been involved with the Lawyers Assistance Program since, I guess I've been on the board for the last 17 years, and I originally got involved with the Lawyers Assistance Program because I was a client. And I want to tell you how I ended up receiving help from the Lawyers Assistance Program. As you know, I come from a family of lawyers. My father was chairman of the bar examiners, head of legal aid, and his father was like one of the first Black printers in the state of Maryland, and he didn't know how to process information in a healthy way, and he drank through his feelings. And so he didn't teach my father how to do it. And my father smoked through his feelings. And my father got cancer and eventually passed. And so I'm next in line. I think I'm the most unique guy. And the reason that I'm saying this is that a lot of these issues are genetic. Anxiety, stress, high blood pressure, addiction, bipolar. And so I medicated through my feelings. And so I was a public defender. I was never arrested. I had no attorney grievance charges against me. I always got great evaluations. I won a bunch of jury trials. But I was living a double lifestyle. I had a brother who's a dentist who found out how I was living, and he went to my boss and told my boss how I was living. And once again, I'm used to helping people. I felt as if it was a weakness for me not to be able to address this issue myself. And so, Judge Scurti, what I'm trying to tell you is that it took desperation for me. What happened for me was my law firm tried to help me by putting me in counseling, and I'm usually the one who's counseling other people. And so it was very challenging for me to accept help, accept the information the way that it came. And it came to the point where my office fired me. And then I became desperate enough, once again, to end up with the Lawyers Assistance Program, allowed someone who had the same issues that I had to walk me through my fears and insecurities of receiving help the way that it came, and to continue that help. And so, once again, lawyers are the type that are, A-type personality. They want to figure it out themselves. They see it as a weakness when actually it's a strength to be able to ask for help and to accept help. And so a lot of times, like I said, we have people who come in only when they're completely broken. They've run out of ideas. They've either fired from their jobs or they get arrested. Or sometimes we may have a judge that'll call and say, I have an attorney that's acting out. There's something the matter with this attorney. Would you reach out to this attorney? Or we'll have a judge that maybe he'll have a law clerk that may suffer from depression or anxiety, and then they refer them to the Lawyers Assistance Program. So and so we have a group of lawyers on our committee that are familiar with recovery or familiar with depression and anxiety, that can once again kind of coach them into saying, hey, you're not unique. This isn't the end of the world. Attorney grievance isn't out to get you, and can walk them through the process of receiving help.
And in fact, the attorney grievance many times will refer individuals to the program as a diversionary track just for assistance. I recall one time in court, one of my colleagues had someone in front of them who the judge was concerned about the person's condition and felt that they may be under the influence. And, it was stressful because we had to, how do you address it in a way that protects the person's client, because we were an open court, and whatnot. And we got the advice as to how to help handle that. And luckily, this individual was in a program and, was very forthright and explained. And this wasn't an issue of trying to punish. It was an issue of trying to protect and make sure that the person was getting help that they needed. And to understand addiction, we understand that, it's an ongoing process. This is not a one-time or one model fits all kind of situation. And I'm sure we all in our lives, our family, have folks who have different types of, whether mental health or addiction problems or dual diagnosis or whatever it may be, and trying to deal with it and to be able to understand, and I'm sure Judge Dorsey, you see this as well. When I have someone in front of me who's been charged with possession and they're addicted, they're using heroin every day, they're using, just fill in the blank, pick the drug. I kind of have a pact with them and I say, look, I'm going to put you on probation, but I'm anticipating you may relapse. I'm not telling you to relapse. I'm expecting it's likely to happen. If it does, what I want you to do is go to your probation agent, because if you don't go to your probation agent, you're off the grid and we can't help you. And I said, and many folks have the anxiety, the defendants, that, oh my God, if I use, I'm going to go back to jail. And I tell them, I'm not going to send you to jail if you use, or if you drink, or if you're, if you test with a positive of opioid or whatever it may be. And I can tell you, in the 7 years that I've been doing this, I haven't had one person go off the radar because they've tested positive. And I guess it's sort of the mindset, if I test positive, if I relapse, I'm going to go to my probation agent because they're going to test me and I'm going to get violated by the judge and the judge is going to send me to jail, and it becomes sort of this cycle. And so, from the defendant or a client standpoint, attorneys, I think could be greater advocates to educate the bench about addiction, educate the bench about, what we as judges can do and you as lawyers can do to help our clients going through sort of those types of crises.
Yeah. We also have problems, once again, we are our brothers and sisters keepers, that we know someone who may have a alcohol problem, but we don't know how to help them. And if you can call the Lawyers Assistance Program confidentially, and we will reach out to that lawyer. We recently lost a lawyer who used to be a prosecutor in Baltimore County, and everybody knew he partied too much. They knew he partied too much. Then he went out in his own private practice and was a successful federal practitioner, and he was found married, 2 young kids. 2 years ago, he was found dead in a hotel room with an overdose of fentanyl, and everybody was broken because they knew he had issues and no one would reach out to the Lawyers Assistance Program to help him. And that's happened to Chief Judge of the Court of Appeals, his former law clerk. She became a public defender, and her friends knew once again that something was off with her, that she mixed pills and alcohol, and she died. And so at 26 years old, before her career even started. And so it's imperative that we continue to use the Lawyers Assistance Program. And if you see somebody who's in trouble, or somebody who could use some help, we're here to help them.
So we had a comment, or a question, what do you advise for those of us who are concerned about colleagues who have issues, but are apprehensive about contacting LAP for that person? Can you what would your advice be for that?
I would try to have a conversation with that person, or if you have someone, I don't know whether there's a mental health issue. And what we're trying to do is take the stigma off of mental health, take the stigma off of addiction, take the stigma off of stress, anxiety. That's just a part of being a human being. The definition of a human being is got issues. I don't know a human being that doesn't have issues, okay? And those are the ones that have issues, the ones that don't think they have any issues. But if you can find somebody who can sit down and have a conversation with them in private, if you feel uncomfortable calling the Lawyers Assistance Program, I would highly recommend that, instead of just turning your back and acting as if it's not happening, or that this person doesn't have a problem, because once again, we are the keepers of our brothers and our sisters.
Again, if you have any other comments or questions, feel free to put that in the chat. Happy to call on you. Now, we were the first lawyer assistance program in the country, as I understand it.
That's correct.
1980. Can you tell us, how has the program changed over the last 40 years?
Absolutely. So once again, in the beginning, it was just alcohol and drugs. Actually, it first started off with just alcohol, and then eventually, because lawyers will not usually disclose that they have a drug problem, okay? And then what we realized is that was too narrow in supporting our community, and so we then broaden our perspective to support holistically the entire human being, whether they had mental health issues, whether they have food issues, eating through their feelings, shopping through their feelings, acting out sexually, financial issues, relationship issues. So we found out that we needed to support the entire human being, and our problem is that we would always run out of money, Judge Scurti, but because of the Maryland State Bar Association and Chief Judge Barbera, our program is fully funded now, so that if you need to go away for treatment and you don't have the money, we have the money to be able to do that today. If you need to get medication because you lost your job and you're on psych med and you're a lawyer and you can't afford it, we now have the money to be able to fully support our community, and that is really allowed us to expand our services. It's grown 100-fold since the beginning, when we were just alcohol and drugs, and so we have completely transformed into a complete service center for our population.
The Court of Appeals and support of Chief Judge Barbera has been critical in the funding part. $500,000 was transferred to a Bates Vincent Foundation that's managed and run by the Maryland State Bar, and it's set up exactly for that purpose. And a lot of people are not aware of that ability of the foundation to assist lawyers in many ways, and I appreciate you bringing that information out. Let me ask our group here today, what are some of the things that you're doing in your practices, given the new world that we're in? Doris and I talked about this earlier with Judge Dorsey about the village concept. We're taking care of our children at home and trying to do online school while we're trying to meet with a client. Maybe we have a remote hearing and you've got the toilet flushing, you've got the shower, going, you've got the doorbell ringing, you've got kids and cats running all over the place. So what are some of the things that you all are doing to try to cope with this? Are any of you experiencing these issues? Go ahead and unmute yourself and jump in if you have something to say. How about for our older crowd, our more mature crowd? Is there a sense of aloneness, for some of us, because we're cooped up in our homes, we're not being able to socialize the way we've used to socialize? I can tell you for me, it's been difficult. I like to be out. I'd like to travel. And I think Southwest called me to say, well, where are you? Are you okay? Because I haven't been flying. And doing the things that we're used to doing. Susan, go ahead, tell us.
I was just going to say, about 2 months ago, I started meditating on a daily basis. I tend to meditate right before I go to sleep. So I'm already in bed. It helps me get sleep because for a few months I hadn't been sleeping. And there's just this great app. There are a lot of really good apps out there, but there's a great app that's free. I don't get any money from it. I'm not, I don't get anything from this. It's just the one I use. It's called Insight Timer. And I started using it. You can set it by, like how long you want and what topics you want. So I started with like 3 to 5 minutes because as lawyers, we can't stop thinking for 3 minutes. I mean, it's just hard to make our brain stop like that, and just concentrate on breathing and things like that. And I'm now up to, like, depending on the day, half an hour or an hour. And it really helps me get better sleep. And then the next day is just much better. So also, I need to run to another appointment. So I wanted to say thank you. This has been really good. It's always good to see everybody, even in the morning. But everybody be well.
Thanks, Susan. So glad you joined us and appreciate your comment and that tip on Insight Timer. Another thing that we look at least from the judge's standpoint, through our judicial education, we were given sort of a program on health and wellness. And I think this really, I remember back in practice, and Harris kind of touched upon this earlier, is sort of that secondary post-traumatic stress situation, where we are taking in every day the stress of our clients, whether it's a financial hardship, whether it's the divorce, whether it's domestic violence, whether it's the criminal, piece of it. As a state's attorney or a public defender, you're dealing with some really horrific, horrible situations. And how do you kind of recognize that it's not really my personal stress, but it is my personal stress because it's coming to me secondarily? You're hearing it, you're processing it, you're owning it to a certain extent as you're representing your clients or listening from the bench and things like that. And one of the things that we were taught is to do the meditation to help us de-stress, to walk, to clear the air. When I drive into work in the morning and when I leave work, I don't listen to CNN or any of the news stations. I have classical music because that makes me happy. It's relaxing. It's my soothing kind of thing for me to do. But I also look very closely at nutrition. So Judge Dorsey, how does nutrition, if it play a factor in what we eat, how we kind of process our foods and interactions with our body and the chemicals?
So once again, we are what we eat, basically. And so, I was talking to Judge Scurti. He offered me coffee this morning. He was going to send some coffee over. And I don't do caffeine and I don't do sugar well because they're stimulants, and my body says more. And so I go up and then I come down like a cheap date. And I'm this moody, irritable person if I have, because I want to change the way that I feel with sugar and caffeine. A lot of foods break down into sugar, and it causes the stress and anxiety of this moodiness of ups and downs by what we put into our bodies. You know, they put things like corn fructose syrup, which is more addictive than heroin and cocaine as a food process in a lot of our foods. That causes obesity. And so a lot of the stress and anxiety comes from our inability to manage what we eat. And it's so important that we eat properly, because once again, if we're taking on stress and anxiety, a lot of times what we reach for are things that are unhealthy for us. We reach for things that break down into sugar because that soothes us, or stimulates us, and it's unhealthy. So what we eat and what we drink totally affects our moods, our reactions, our stress levels. And so it's crucial that we, not only what we eat, but also how we sleep. You know, do we sleep with the television on, with the lights on, with the phone beside us? You know, being able to, once again, put ourselves in a position to be able to get the best sleep, so that when we wake up, we can address the issues that we have to address every day. And so it's the holistic approach is looking at how we eat, finding, like Judge Scurti said, taking a walk every day, walk your dog, ride your bike, play tennis, find a conducive way for you to get that stress and anxiety out in a healthy way. Because if you don't find a healthy way to deal with stress and anxiety will find an unhealthy way to deal with you. And so those are the things that we look at, the holistic approach of being mindful of where we are emotionally, spiritually, physically, mentally, and it's our responsibility to be able to nurture and develop ourselves in those areas.
Thank you.
If I could add on to what Judge Dorsey
Please.
had to say, I'm someone that I'm home with kids. I have a 10-year-old and a 15-year-old, and my husband is also home. I am now back in the office. As the courts opened up, we opened up. And my job involves emergency hearings, so I really haven't been out of court. But because the kids are home and they're not getting their recess time and their PE time and their extracurricular sports, each of them has picked a parent and they have roped us into activity with them, which is good. Our lazy behinds needed to move. And my daughter, and we discovered a benefit my husband had through his job we weren't using, which was reimbursement for gym memberships and equipment, workout equipment. We got a Nordic track, which everyone can use. Mm-hmm. And we got, and I got a membership for, what's it called? Open Fit, to do class exercises that are based in ballet and Pilates, which my daughter loves. It's killing me, but she loves it. But it's our togetherness. It's everybody moving, which is really hard to do. And in anticipation of winter, when we're not going to be able to get out like we have been this past summer, we kind of, jumped on this, and we're getting into this routine that hopefully will carry through. So just something that we tried.
That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that, Denise. One of the things I wanted to bring is Irwin Kramer has been working on some programs. I know that he does some work with lawyer assistants as well as through the attorney grievance. Irwin, you want to talk a bit about some of the things that you've been working on?
Well, I just want to echo what Judge Dorsey said. I think that it's important we care for our colleagues. We've got ethical rules that say we should report colleagues to the appropriate professional authority when we see something go wrong. but we don't say anything about reporting or referring them to appropriate professional help. And I think that we as a profession need to realize that we're only going to improve the quality of life of the professionals within our field if we actually do take some degree of responsibility for the fact that we've got a higher rate of suicide, depression, other addictions, and mental illness. And we don't have to be resigned to that fact. So some of the initiatives that I'm working on with MSBA actually would be to help provide a more structured diversionary program. Right now, we have ad hoc conditional diversion agreements, which are very hard for Bar Council to administer. Bar Council is really set up to be a prosecutor, not provide intervention. I wouldn't want my prosecutor in charge of the rehabilitation of those they prosecute. And that is unfortunately all we have right now in Maryland. There are other states that have done so much more than we have. Illinois being the gold standard, frankly. They actually, I used to think they were a unified bar because they had so many programs. No, the judiciary actually pumps as much money into well-being as they do to prosecution in Illinois. Here, we really don't allot much money, public funds at least, to lawyer well-being. If not for the MSBA and the LAP, we wouldn't have any programs at all really for lawyer intervention. And so I think it's really important that we understand that if we really want to improve the quality of the work we do, we need to take care of the health of those who do it first. So that's something that I think is extraordinarily important. About a year ago, I worked, I published in the MSBA journal an article called Caring for Our Colleagues. And in researching the article, I wanted to find out, well, what else has been written on the topic? I couldn't find anything. You know, there are some general well-being, but nothing in which we look at alternatives to simply punishing bad behavior. Because I really think that most of us mean well.
Yeah.
And most of the time that I see people come in my practice, as you may know, I do a lot of defending of attorneys in disciplinary matters. It's one of a few things. It's either an addiction. That accounts for probably a third of my clientele because there's nothing more self-destructive than an attorney in addiction. The second would be, you know, problems with just, you know, being a decent lawyer, but not a very good business person. The two are not one and the same. And for many of us, we went into law not really thinking that we'd wind up being entrepreneurs as well. There are two separate learning curves. And a lot of times, particularly young lawyers, trip over the second of the learning curve of how do I run a business, let alone be a good lawyer. And so that leads to some trust issues and things of that kind. We're not talking about people who steal, people who want to cheat. You know, they don't tend to gravitate to my practice because candidly, those cases are dead on arrival. There's not much for me to do in those situations. And yet you have people who mean well, who are trying to serve the underserved. In many cases, when they do that, they have to take on a larger client base, more volume to make less money. And they have fewer resources to contend with a large influx of cases from those who can't really afford to pay. So all that low bono work, although well-intentioned, works into potential problems and client complaints and things of this kind where no good deed goes unpunished. So I think we have to really rethink this. And that's been one of my largest initiatives, that and helping to maybe do a bit more proactively for lawyer well-being. Those are a couple of things. I happen to serve on the Maryland Rules Committee, and you know, we're always considering revisions to rules and things of that kind. I don't know that the sentiment is exactly conscious of the need for more programs on lawyer well-being, but I'm hopeful that with the work of the MSBA, we can change some of the mindset, because I think it's vitally important. We're not talking about just a few people who are suffering. At some level, a large portion of our bar, and I'm convinced of this, is suffering from some form of addiction, depression, mental illness, some life imbalance. And in large part because we were raised to be unbalanced. We were raised that there was a real merit to showing your face in the office 24/7, 365. I started at an old firm called Weinberg and Green, which is Saul Ewing now, but it was 160 lawyers, one of the largest firms. And we used to, it was a source of pride if you were there at all hours and could always be seen. Well, we shouldn't take pride in that. That's what leads to a lot of our problems. We need balance. We can't take care of others unless we can take care of ourselves. So a lot of the initiatives that I've been working on, Judge Scurti, really relate to that. And trying to keep some of our colleagues out of trouble, but also making sure that, I don't get repeat business from the same folks. It's important that we try to solve problems in a long-term sense so that we can save careers and save lives in the process.
Irwin, I appreciate that. Thank you for telling us what you're working on and the work that you're doing. And I want to just kind of get us, last couple minutes we have left. I'm cognizant of our time, and I think this has been a great discussion with everyone. I hope that you've been able to take away from this program this morning a little something to make our lives better. We just taking from the Lawyer Assistance Program, our mission, we envision a membership in which every lawyer of the Maryland State Bar is provided with the support and education needed to achieve optimal overall health and wellness. The overreaching goal is to enhance health and wellness so lawyers can better serve themselves as well as others within their personal and their professional lives. And with that, Judge Dorsey, any final words for the group?
Well, I just want to go over two things. I want to go over a 2016 ABA national study that showed that 21% of licensed employed lawyers qualify as problem drinkers, 28% struggle with some level of depression, 19% demonstrate symptoms of anxiety, and younger attorneys in their first 10 years of practice exhibit the highest incidence of these problems. And so I just want to leave you with, Lisa left a virtual toolbox, things that she wanted me to have you hold on to for your wellness during this epidemic. And she wanted to recommend that you continue in any treatment, medical, mental health, 12-step meetings, virtually. That people often stop what is helping when they're under stress and they don't feel like they have the time to do it now. She also wants you to make a strong effort on practicing that self-care that we talked about. She wanted to inform you to avoid information overload, and pay attention to your body's reaction and turn it off. Set a timer to limit. Make your decisions with intent. Surround yourself virtually with emotionally healthy people. So she wants you to turn all that unhealthy stuff off and surround yourself virtually with emotionally healthy people. Speak kindly to yourself like you would a friend, and make an effort to reach out to others. She says it's really important, especially with the winter time coming. And lastly, to separate work from home. She says your job is what you do for a living. It is not who you are. So once you hit that step to go into the house, to leave that work at the steps, be emotionally available to your loved ones and to yourself. And eventually later that night, you may have to go back to that work, but leave it at the doorstep once you come home. So thank you, Judge Scurti.
Thank you, Judge Dorsey. I think they're wonderful tips to live by. And the only thing I would add to that is now that some of us are having our office at home is create that separate space that we can then close and walk away from. I can't thank you enough for stepping in and on behalf of Lisa Kaplan and Lawyer Assistance Program and the MSBA. I do appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Real quick, 2 fast things. Again, Cooking Connections, October 27th. It's free to members. The ingredients you'll have to get on your own. We don't supply those. Sorry about that. Also, don't forget Lawyer Excellence Week, November 9th through the 13th. We've got some great programming, education coming up. And our next coffee chat will be the first Wednesday of November. And that's going to be on jury trials. What do they look like? What lessons have we learned? So if you've done jury trials and you want to share your experiences across the state, please do so. Thank you to everyone. Thank you to Doris. Thank you, Judge Dorsey, again. Everyone have a great stress-free day.
Thank you. Thank you for your service, Judge Scurti. Thank you, Doris.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.